60% supporting vote, that candidate will then be submitted, the name will be submitted to the president for appointment. So you'll have 5 minutes just to briefly state why this committee should consider you for nomination as a public protector. Over to you, sir. The time starts now.
Thank you, Chair. I'll preface my motivation by citing The Art of War, Sun Tzu, who talks about the 5 qualities of leadership. And if my memory serves me well, it's intelligence, humility, trustworthiness, discipline, and what's the other one? Can't remember. I'll get back to it. And I do think I possess this 5 qualities of leadership. I have been, the 5th one is humility. I've definitely been a servant of the public, and I think my track record does show that I have appreciated the importance of humility. Trustworthiness, I guess, also qualify in that sense. And intelligence, I do. It's really about a vision and being able to lead. And of course, these 5 qualities must be properly balanced. And I think at this point in time, the public protector is definitely, office of wounded. And there's a need really to help to restore the dignity of the organization in order to serve the mandate and serve the people of this country. And therefore, what one needs really is someone with a proven track record of leadership and who meets the 5 criteria of leadership as per The Art of War in order to be able to turn things around. So my track record is there. I've been a public servant for a long time. I've served in Chapter 9 bodies as a CEO twice of the Human Rights Commission. I'm currently working at the Office of the Chief Justice as the head of legal. I've also worked with civil society organizations. I've been an academic. I've lectured in South Africa as well as in the US. I've published over 15 articles on human rights issues. And I think my track record as a Human Rights Commission, both good and bad, really has helped me because you cannot fly a plane just by having theoretical knowledge. You have to have a track record that you can fly the plane. And I think at this point in time, we need people with proven track records, proven abilities of leadership to be able to fly this plane. And we have seen from the past the challenges of leadership in each chapter institutions, that if Parliament appoints people who don't meet these 5 criteria of Sun Tzu of leadership, then the plane will crash. And it has crashed in many instances. And we cannot, as a country at this point in time, afford to have public protector crashing. The public need to have confidence that they will be protected. And this institution, which is so important in terms of advancing our democracy, in terms of making our people confident and believe in government so that we can actually move from where we are, really needs a public protector which will deliver and which will be trustworthy. And therefore, in this words, Chairperson, I do possess all the criteria. I think you have my CV before you. And lastly, as I've said elsewhere, that, one of the important challenges facing this country is the issue of corruption and poor service delivery. And of course, this also affects human rights. And I've done a lot of work really around the support of whistleblowers. I've actually drafted a bill, a new amendment, a new act. We call it a Whistleblower Protection and Support Act, which we've given to government. And I think that's been used in some of the documents now from the Department of Justice as to how we can amend this. And therefore, I believe that if I was to become the public protector, one of the things I'll do is really to ensure that there is better support and protection for whistleblowers so that we can actually do better in fighting corruption, in fighting maladministration in our country, and making our people to believe much more deeper in our democracy and in our governance. So that's one other thing which I've done. And I think, Chairperson, the other points which I want to mention is that, in order to succeed as a public protector, you have to have a good stakeholder relationship with all the stakeholders, government, the public, as well as chapter 9 institutions and civil society as well. And that is quite crucial because the public protector is not a big organization. It has to work through and with other institutions. And my track record really shows that I have managed to maintain those stakeholder relationships. But two, we need to address the internal challenges in the public protector. Staff members are very demoralized. And it's quite unfortunate that, due to the few incidences, the public has lost confidence. But if you look at the work which is being done overall, there are good people in the institution. All they just need is a leader who will inspire them and also make them believe. And you need that. But secondly, we also have to, now coming back now to where I am at OCJ, we do need to ensure that our complaints handling systems are also top-notch. So we have in OCJ an electronic system to manage with courts. I know public protector is already looking to this, so one needs to look into that and see how we can improve on that system to make sure that basically we are able to deliver on a mandate. Because one sad thing with the public protector or bodies like this, that if the public come and lodge complaints and you take forever to deal with them, then you are in trouble. It actually undermines the trust the people have. The third issue is we have to deal with the many cases which we have been losing as a public protector. They really undermine the confidence of the public. They undermine public resources. So we really need to make sure that, we do need to minimize this. But on the other hand, I must say...
Yeah, no, the 5 minutes is up. We've just gone beyond it by 1 minute. Just one question from my side. Do you confirm the disclosures you've made in the questionnaire, I guess?
Yes, I did.
Is anything perhaps that you wish to add or disclose or explain?
Not that I can think of, Chair, but I'll be able to answer anything which members of the committee might be aware of.
Thank you very much. It's now the opportunity for the colleagues to ask questions. Right. We'll start with Honorable Magwanisha. Let me just take hands. And Advocate Bradenbach, Honorable Mawete, sorry, my apologies. Inkosi Buthelezi. Can I write Honorable Tlape, Honorable Horn, Honorable Vessels, Honorable Soma, and Honorable Mananiso, and Honorable Janji. So I will take you in that order, colleagues. I start with the Honorable Magwanisha. Over to you, Honorable Magwanisha.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning, Advocate Tipanyane. Chair, I want to make a declaration that I do know Advocate Tipanyane as the CEO of the South African Human Rights Commission that reported to the Portfolio Committee of Justice. That's to the extent of my knowledge of him. Advocate Tipanyane, what is your understanding of the role of the public protector in respect of the requirements of the Executive Members Ethics Act? Yeah.
Yes. So you'll have an interaction for about 8 minutes or so, after which we'll move to the next question. Sorry, next colleague.
Thank you, Chair. The Executive Members Ethics Act is part of the mandate of the public protector to investigate alleged or suspected abuse of power and conduct which can result in injustice and prejudice, And therefore, the Public Protectors Act mandate also requires the act itself requires the public protector to look into, to implement the act as far as the members are concerned. And I guess the famous example of this is the Phala Phala report, where
That's fine.
the act featured. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Then what are some of the challenges associated with the implementation of the Act?
The PP's Act or this one?
This Executive Members Ethics Act?
Yeah, well, I guess what came out of the report, which is apparently going to go for judicial review, is the interpretation of that act as to, let's take the first part as to, whether, to what extent are you conflicted and to what extent are you earning income outside your mandate as an official under that act. And I guess the court will need to clarify this. You saw the same example with the Ngobo Committee, where again the public was having big debates as to what is the proper understanding of that act. But in essence, really, there is definitely a need for a proper understanding of what that act means in terms of, to what extent are you conflicted. And therefore, I think the courts will help to clarify that. So one is actually hoping that the courts will help in that direction.
Okay. I forget Chipanyana. You have worked as an accounting officer. How will you manage the administration executive authority interface? Because now you'll be an executive authority and there will be a CEO of the Public Protector of South Africa. How will you manage that interface?
Thanks. Let me start from an academic point of view. I've got an LLM in corporate law, and therefore one understands and appreciates the importance of that division between the board and management. Secondly, I've humbly been appointed to be a board member of SABC, where I also am part of the governance committee and also chair the social and ethics committee. And therefore, we're very clear that, we must stay in our lane. Now, as a former accounting officer, of course, one has had major experiences of challenges about maintaining that division. And therefore, I think I have enough experience to understand that. But also, I've seen the negative impacts when that line is blurred. And I think the committee led by Mr. Janji has picked up these issues. And what happens when you blur those lines? Sorry, Honorable Mr. Janji. And therefore, for me, as a potential public protector, I need to make sure that there's corporate governance in the organization, because that is crucial to ensure the organization does the mandate, staff members, and they're inspired. That's what we need. So it's about leadership. Going back to the points I was raising about Sun Tzu, that a leader has to have those 5 qualities which will inspire staff members and ensure that organizations do deliver. Because most organizations collapse, whether it's political or otherwise, due to bad leadership and blurring those lines.
Thank you very much. I was looking at your CV, Advocate Chipanyana, and something that maybe you might clarify me on. In 2020, you did your pupillage with the Gauteng Society of Advocates. And you did that pupillage whilst you were still a CEO of the South African Human Rights Commission. And when I looked at the requirements for pupillage by Gauteng Society of Advocates, it says you must not be in full-time employment. How did that happen?
Well, first I declared. Secondly, the Gauteng Society of Advocates was running the program after hours, at night, on weekends. And as a result, the LPC basically refused to recognize our certificates until they were taken to court, and the court ruled that the pupillage we did is a full pupillage. So that's a clarity. So I should have made that clear.
Okay, thank you very much. And then when I was looking at your questionnaire, you said that you want to be one of the best public protectors ever, if I quote you verbatim. So can you take us through what do you think you will do better, and what other public protectors did not do, which will make you to be one of the best ever?
Well, actually, I had a 10-point plan. I can't remember the points now, but I'll try and go over them. I think, as I was saying, you need the greater the power, the greater the humility. That's very crucial. But two, you have to have a vision. And that vision can only be informed to a large extent by experience. And I have been in this field since 1996. I was head of research at the Commission. I became a CEO twice, and now I'm at OCJ. I did some work in justice. So I have gone through the mills. I think I've been tested. I've made mistakes, clean audits, bad audits, staff issues. So I have mastered that. But also my relationships with everybody else has really made sure that I've got good stakeholder relationships with media, with NGOs, with everybody else. So I think I'm a person whom the people of this country can actually find confidence in, that this man, this person, has really, over the last 15 years, shown us that he is a true servant of the public, and he cares about the public. And my work speaks for itself, minus all the mistakes. So as far as the other issues are concerned, it's really about, how we then, look at the mandate and see how best we can improve on it. And I need to say, I've said this also when I joined the Human Rights Commission. And if you recall, in 2009, when we appeared before the Kader Asmal, I was the CEO, and we rated one of the best commissions, Chapter 9, according to Kader Asmal's report. And in 2009, we actually came third in the awards for public bodies who are using legal powers. So I think I have committed myself to that, and I have delivered, minus one or two things. So I really think that with all my experience, my academic ability, my personality, my humility, and everything else, I can really turn things around. But it will be crucial that I take the staff of Public Protector with me. It is crucial that the public believes in us. It is crucial that we also work with all stakeholders, because we don't have money. And therefore, we need to leverage all these issues. In that sense, I think we can come back here and say this was indeed one of the best Public Protectors we've ever had.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Advocate Tipanyane.
Thank you very much, Honorable Makwanishe. Honorable Bredenbach.
So we have 8 minutes each as members to ask you questions. So I would like you to try and keep your answers as brief as possible while answering the question.
Thank you.
Okay. You skipped a couple of the important qualities of a leader, but you said you couldn't remember them all, so we'll forgive you.
I can write them down.
And there's the other list now you also couldn't remember, so clearly memory isn't your strong suit. You've had 7 or 8 jobs since 2005. Why is that?
Well, I'm 60 years old now, and so if you were to give people a 5-year span, then it might explain. But I came back home in 1990 and worked at the Center for Criminal Justice in Pietermaritzburg. Then I was approached to be a law lecturer at UWC, so I left. It was a good opportunity. Then when I was there, I got tenure, but then I was asked to consider applying for the Human Rights Commission. So I left and joined the Human Rights Commission. That's why I stayed for the longest time. I was 8 years as head of research. Then I moved to join the CRL Commission, and then the Commission called me back. Then I worked again at the Commission. Then I resigned in 2009, moved to US.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I know how many jobs you've had. It's all in your CV. I want to know why you kept changing jobs. Just that answer.
Well, looking for greener pastures where opportunities can come. Not because I was fired or anything like that.
Fine. That's all good. You're hoping to be appointed to a position of leadership in a very important constitutional office. That office is currently deeply divided and conflicted. Briefly, how are you going to get that office working off one page and working optimally?
Happy staff members make happy workers. I will need to sit down with my colleagues, whom I know very well. I've worked with them for quite a long time, to say, colleagues, we have a mandate to execute here. And you know me, you know who I am. So let us move this ship together and see how best we can turn around all the mistakes we've had. It means we'll have to study the reports which have been raised by the portfolio committee on the impeachment process, and then see, what can we do? But also then how do we get a public buy-in? Because at this point in time, the public does not really believe in us. So we need to get the public to believe that we can deliver. And also go back to all the stakeholders to say, listen, we can work together to fight corruption in our country, to strengthen our democracy. So I think it's very possible. They are good people, they are highly qualified. It's just that they've been subjected to not so good a leadership system, that's all. They've been there doing all the work all the time. And they have been indeed one of the, let me just take you back. Under Thuli Madonsela, Pulp Protector was highlighted as one of the leading institutions. The very same staff members who are there now were there. So it's possible.
What, in your view, is the one essential quality that you need to be an effective public protector? One.
Humility.
And you think you have that?
Definitely.
I see. Okay. What do you understand under the principle of legality? What does that mean?
Well, there's been a debate in the courts between administrative action and the principle of legality. So the courts have tended to use the principle of legality when they deal with executive power, and then administrative action when you deal with PAJA. But I think there's been a bit of a confusion there. But basically, the principle of legality is about, you acting within the laws, within the spirit of the laws, within the spirit of the Constitution. And then the courts will then have to decide. So let's say, for example, you take Section 181 of Chapter 9. It says all these bodies must act without fear, favor, and prejudice. So in terms of the legality principle, you'll check whether is their conduct in line with those. So there have been a number of judgments which have basically outlined the principles of legality to basically test and review decisions or conduct in the exercise of public power to a large extent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my questions, and I have saved 3.5 minutes, which Mr. Horn can have.
All right. We'll look at that. Honorable Morton.
Thank you, Chair. Dumela Advocate Tupeng.
Again,
So you just confirmed earlier on that you turned 60 years this year.
yes.
And if you become the successful candidate and get appointed this year, by the time you finish your term, you'll be 67.
Yes.
And I'm not saying this because I suffer from ageism or anything, but do you have a comment on that?
Yes. There's a need really to ensure that, we encourage future leaders of the country. We promote young people as much as we can, and that's what we are committed to, because they are the future. However, you cannot also not discount extreme situations, like here now. The public protector is really in trouble, and you need people who are experienced, who know what to do in order to turn things around. You cannot leave this institution in young people who have no experience simply because you want to be nice. We have to think about the interests of the country and our people. So tough times calls for tough measures. But if I become the public protector, I will need to make sure that we groom as many young people as possible to be the next public protectors, because we need to start lowering the age limit. When I worked at the commission, most commissioners were old, retirees, and we do need young people with energy and vibrancy.
No, thanks. So going to your CV, I noticed that in 2018, you completed your LLM. And you focused on the corporate funding of political parties. And I'm going to quote what you said on your thesis, that the recent conduct in the country regarding unregulated corporate political spending, which lacks transparency and often excludes shareholder and stakeholder involvement, has led to allegations of state power manipulation, abuse of state resources and corruption by corporations that fund political parties and activities. This was 2018. Would you say this was triggered by the CR17 campaign, which was had allegedly raised 1.2 billion for Mr. Ramaphosa during the Nazareth conference?
No, unfortunately not. It was triggered by the case we had around Paya, that who reports and why. And the view was that political parties control a lot of power and they can be manipulated. And they must then be subject to Paya. And I'm glad the Constitutional Court made a ruling. Actually, when I was writing my last page, the Constitutional Court ruled that Paya is unconstitutional because political parties cannot declare. So that was really that about how do we ensure the values of the Constitution, transparency, responsiveness, and whatever. That was really the main thing. But secondly, when you look all over the world, there has been regulation of corporate political spending. I mean, look at now what happened last year. Glencore was fined $2 billion for bribing magistrates, judges, presidents all over the world. So the corporates are very powerful and they need to be regulated because we are saying that our constitution is supreme. So everybody must be held accountable. Okay. So that's really, for me, the essence of why there must be regulation. Everybody must be regulated. We cannot have political parties getting monies on the side without us as a public not knowing. We are voting for you because we think you are, but now we're not aware that behind you there is some other billionaire behind you who's telling you what to do. It's happened all over the world.
That's fine. So while you were the CEO of South African Human Rights Commission, were there instances where you felt there was undue political influence? If so, can you describe these instances and how you responded to them? And if you can just give us practical and specific instances, because this is extremely important for us to note.
Yes. Oh, sorry, you had an example. Okay, sorry, I thought you were like ask me to respond.
Do you think there was undue political influence? If so, can you give us instances and how you responded to those?
Well, let me put it like this. We're very clear staff members. We'll do our work without fear or favor or prejudice. And there's nothing in my record as the Human Rights Commission which will show that I ever departed from that. Now, of course, commissioners, the first batch of commissioners, if you recall, they all had to have 2/3 majority. So none of them had. So all of them came from different political parties. So they will bring their views there. So when we make recommendations, they say yes or no, that's fine, but we're very clear, we will not. So one cannot discount that an individual commissioner can try to bring his own views or perspective. But what matters is the outcome. So in my term as the CEO of the Human Rights Commission, we never at once took a decision which went against the values of we shall do our work without fear, favor, or prejudice.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm still good on time. So one of the roles of the public protector is to remain accessible to the public, ensuring both the broader public and influential societal groups are catered for. During your tenure as the CEO of SAHRC, AfriForum launched several cases, even challenging the binding powers of the SAHRC. How would you describe the relationship with AfriForum?
Well, we're very clear as a commission, at least as a CEO, that all South Africans are our shareholders. And we must dispense our mandate to them regardless of who they are and how they relate to us. So yes, AfriForum did raise a number of concerns about us. They went to the UN and said we're racist. We didn't care about those. If they come to us with a genuine complaint, we'll deal with it. That was our motto and our vision. And we've never departed from that. That's why under my term, the Commission was never taken to task for making a decision which is unfair and unjust, under my term. But there were before, you asked me a question before. When I joined the Commission in 2017, there was a court case where the former chairperson, Advocate Mshwana, had made a finding clearing Mr. Fransman of Western Cape. And when I saw this thing, I said, hell no, this is wrong. And we said, we're not going to oppose this matter. It's wrong. And we don't subscribe to this kind of things. I hope I've answered the other question about, whether there has been. That was a clear case because we do not understand why. The second one was the case of Mr. Masuku, from the former head of COSATU International Relations Center. When we made that finding, we were actually called by Advocate Mushwana to say, well, it's not the decision of the commission, we won't support it. We said, no, it's our decision. We went to court, won in High Court, lost in Supreme Court, then we won in Constitutional Court. And Masuku and COSATU had to apologize. So under my term, we stick to the rules of the commission.
Now, Advocate, I see you have served in the George Soros Foundation as a board member.
Yeah.
Would you agree that those foundations are used by billionaires as puppets to advance certain political agendas?
To be honest,
And just let me just go to the next one. And what is your view about the Office of the PP fundraising from such organizations such as the Open Society Foundation? So those are the two questions. I'm just worried for time.
well,
If you can just summarize it before Chairperson stops.
we are required to be independent and do our work without fear or favor. So we must be careful as to whom we get money from. So when I was approached to be on the board of George Soros, I did feel a bit uncomfortable, but I saw the kind of work they were doing. But after some time, I resigned. I walked away. Because I was really uncomfortable as to how some decisions were being made. And I did resign.
And your view about PP's office fundraising?
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to Advocate Panyani. My first question actually builds up on what President Bank asked you. I assume that considering you serving our government you consider it as a calling, not as a career. Therefore, given the fact that you have changed job for so many times, will dispute the fact that if I put to you that you are a job hopper, motivated by a desire for personal growth, as opposed to serve our people? That's my first question.
I will dispute that. I was not allowed to give reasons as to why I kept on changing jobs. First of all, when I finished law school, I was very clear, I won't work in corporate. I've always worked in public service. The university, the NGOs, I've never worked in corporate. So I'm saying my work in public service has actually equipped me for this job, that I'm a committed public servant. So if you look at my CV closely, I've always been working for the public. It's not about job hopping. I'm now a chief director from level 16 to level 14 in the judiciary.
No.
If you call it job hopping, then I don't know what
That's fine, I get your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the focus areas of South African Institute for Responsive and Accountable Governance is good governance itself. Therefore, how do you consider or how do you envisage restoring not only the public perception and trust in the office of the public protector, but also the lacking accountability system that contributed to the Section 194 inquiry?
Thanks. If I may just go back to the 5 points, I remember them now. Is intelligence, humility, courage, trustworthiness, and discipline. As a leader. Look, it's all about good corporate governance. As a corporate lawyer, institutions stand and fall in terms of how they're governed. The same thing applies to political parties. So clearly, with my experience of being a leader, even though at an executive level, corporate governance is very important. We need to get people. So basically, all these values here, which I've mentioned about leadership, I expect all these values to be manifested by all the people I work with. To commit yourself to the public, to protect the public of this country, and do your work as effectively and efficiently as possible. So we need to make sure that we have got good governance systems, which will encourage people to do well, and also dissuade people from doing bad, and also insist on consequence management if things don't happen properly. I remember being accused by former chair of not having sufficient consequence management information, but it's fine.
Okay, my last question, Chair. The poor majority of our country and the most vulnerable who should be protected by this office don't know about the office itself. They only know the public protector himself or herself. For example, if our communities see a councillor, then they will immediately see service delivery. They will actually ask for issues of water, provision in all the services that actually the council has to provide. But there's a different case with Public Protector. What do you think you can bridge that gap so that people know exactly why this office exists?
No, thanks for that. You know, every time I became the CEO of the commission, it was trouble. Trouble. And every time we come up with a new strategy to say we need to restore public trust. Now, at the commission, in my last 5 years, we raised the media value of the commission to 400 million rand. And small as we were. So we need to build awareness of the public on us by all means necessary. Media is very important, but all other stakeholders. And we've done it before. If you look at the history of the commission, you will realize that we're rating much higher than any other chapter 9 in terms of awareness due to our media coverage. Every week we're in the media. Good stories, not negative stories. So it's something which I will have to infuse. We'll call a press conference and say, comrades in the media, how do we work together for the good of South Africa? Go to NGOs and say, comrades, how do we work together? That's why in my motivation I said, one of the things I want to do there is to establish a whistleblower protection unit in Public Protector to encourage all whistleblowers to come and work together and fight the scourge of corruption in our country.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm done.
Thank you, Chair.
No, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Dumela Advocate Panyani. Kitsuhile. Now, in response to the question of the key challenges our country faces, you clearly state that here the key challenges the country is currently facing are corruption and abuse of public power and public resources, which certainly threaten our constitutional democracy, the protection and promotion of human rights. And I found in my own thinking that you did not appreciate and acknowledge the socio-economic aspect of it. I want to hear from you, Advocate Penyane Hore, because these are structural challenges. What elements, according to you, need to be changed to ensure structural transformation in South Africa and the role that can be played by the Public Protector in this regard?
Thank you. I was head of research for 8 years in the Human Rights Commission, and my mandate was to monitor socio-economic rights. Every year we send questionnaires. So I'm very much familiar with issues of socio-economic rights. But since I had a page, I had to highlight what was one. So if you look at corruption, the Constitutional Court has explained the impact of corruption, Moseneke, that Cameroon, that corruption is one of the biggest threats to our country because it has got many manifestations. It undermines socio-economic rights, it undermines social cohesion, it undermines service delivery, it undermines everything. So it's basically like a virus. And therefore, if we kill that, then the other issues will then get a lift. Moseneke says, corruption deprives our economy of monies which are required to uplift social services like health, housing, potholes, and stuff like that. That's why I put corruption there, because it captures the essence of everything. So I did not forget socio-economic rights. I'm a socio-economic rights person myself for 8 years. I've written many things around socio-economic rights. So in terms of the structural changes which you have referred to, definitely, I think we've got a good constitution. We have good laws. The prevention and combating of corruption, many issues. The challenge really for me is how we implement those things. But two, how do we hold those in power to account? Maybe we have to look at the parliament itself. How does parliament hold those in power to account? And what kind of systems do we need? Because our court has already made a clear decision on that one. But really it's ensuring that we are able to hold those in power, private and public, to account. Because at the end of the day, it's all about us. The private sector is using our national resources. So they must also be held accountable in some ways. So for me, really, apart from the issue of making sure that Parliament does its work, then the Chapter 9s. We also have to look at Chapter 9s. I think there's a need for another Kara Asmal review here, to look at this body to say, exactly where are we? Are we getting value for them? Because they are some of the main drivers. These are bodies which have been established to strengthen our constitutional democracy. So you don't really have, even by structure, you mean broad things, you don't really have much to do other than what I've said. But we need to ensure that the structures we have do work and do deliver, but also review Chapter 9 institutions. I think there are too many. Some of them are not doing such a good job, and we can see how we can make them more effective. Parliament as well, and also how we hold executive to account, and whom we appoint in those positions. It's also very important.
Okay. You're speaking about holding departments accountable and issues of resources. Now, the Office of the Public Protector, like any other institution, does not have resources in abundance. You will be required, obviously, to prioritize resources and investigations. Which types of problems will you prioritize and what impact will they have?
Well, having been there for many years, coming to this committee complaining about money, I think it's also important for all of us to really learn to use what we have maximally and effectively before we start saying we want more money, because there's also a lot of wastage in public service that we need to do. But secondly, we really need to work together much more effectively. So, for example, if government was cooperating, we'll probably reduce the caseload of public protector by half. There'll be less complaints about wrongdoing in government, and therefore we can use those resources elsewhere. But to come directly to your question, at this point in time, in terms of prioritizing of the public protector, we really need to hit corruption, maladministration very, very hard. It takes the soul out of our people when they see people just getting away with wrongdoing, potholes, hospitals without beds, schools with broken windows. It really discourages people. This was the country which we fought for. So I think as a public protector, we have to protect the people. And we need to protect the people from the biggest threat facing them, which is corruption and maladministration. The others can come later. But that, I think, for me, if you look at the level of corruption, we're losing over 50 billion rands a year. People are going to bed without food, no proper schools because of corruption and maladministration. But also, of course, uncaring civil servants. You go to a police station, I won't say anything. You go to a hospital, I won't say anything. But those are what we need to sort out. You are saving the public. That's why Public Protect has a mandate to deal with acts of omission which cause harm to the people of this country.
My last question, probably in cases of pressing high-profile cases and multiple community complaints, how will you strike a balance of resource allocation?
Yes, if you're running a company, you must make sure all your shareholders are happy. And so we do need to find a balance. The high-profile cases are important in setting a precedent, but they should not be our main preoccupation because we're not the only players in the field. Government is supposed to be doing its work. Parliament is supposed to be doing its work. So we're like a catalyst, you know. So we need to be and we're all very small. So we need to see what we can do. But I think for me, the public protector must be a home for the voiceless who have no power to go elsewhere. That should be the focus because if we lose that support, we have no country. The principle of constitutional law is that governments are formed to protect people and enhance their happiness. And therefore, we need to get the people happy. Then if we get the people happy, then those people can also put pressure on all other systems. But if people are unhappy, they switch off. That's why you have such a low voter turnout. So the PP is very crucial in that space to get South Africans, ordinary South Africans, to believe that if they bring a complaint, something will happen. If they see a corrupt police officer, something can happen. A corrupt councillor, something would happen. And our people are losing hope in the Republic. And it's very unfortunate.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Tipanyane. How are you?
Fine,
At this point,
I've got my memory back now.
Mr. Tipanyane, when I look at your CV and you refer to academic articles, etc., it's quite clear that you have a solid academic foundation and your CV also speaks to long years of service as the accounting authority. What I do not see, and I want you to react to that statement, is any real experience in investigations, in finding facts, and then applying the law to it, which, as it turns out, is a crucial component of the role of the public protector.
Okay. It's written all over my CV, the investigation. However, let me be a bit more specific. When I was the head of the commission, in charge of the commission, I had a Mr. Wang Jones, who's quite famous. He was one of our lead investigators. We did the Andres hearing, we did the Alexander hearing. All those things came via me. So as a public protector, I have to make sure that I appoint people who do proper investigations, and my legal argument will ensure that we don't write silly reports which will then be taken on review. But I'm also a lawyer, I've done pupillage, so I've done research. 8 years of research. That's massive investigation. How do we determine that there's been a violation? The Kwalani case was actually led by me. I instituted that case commission, said we make the findings. So all my investigators at the commission, including all court cases, have to come via the office of the CEO for approval. So I have to read the reports and say, yes, go for it, no, don't go for it. Then I recommend to my commissioners. So I don't see any problem at all with, public protector has got a number of investigators. I decide whether there's a violation or not. I've been doing that at the Human Rights Commission. Actually, to put it differently, the work of the Human Rights Commission, to a large extent, is a mirror image of the work of the public protector. So if we have been investigators by excellence, we can do it as well. It's just a matter of shifting human rights and putting something else in terms of Public Protectors Act. That's all. But also, just to make it funny, I have a BSc in biology and chemistry, and I spent 4 years in labs looking through microscopes, spanning chemicals. That's investigation, and with the results. So actually, I have two types of investigation:
Okay.
science and law.
Yeah, thanks. That was not exactly what I was looking for, but it would nonetheless be good to know that you will also be able to do biological investigation. So the law is not an exact science. And it will invariably happen that when the public protector investigates weaknesses in the law might be found, and even the situation, given that the law is not an exact science, where interpretation of the law will be necessary. What, if any, is the authority of the public protector to firstly interpret law?
Thank you. You are bringing two examples, actually, that when we investigate as a public protector and write reports, which are now subject to judicial review, it means we must be a bit smart ourselves by already influencing the law, interpretation, and whatever, and hope, therefore, the courts will agree with us or disagree with us. But at the end of the day, it's all about the building of jurisprudence. And this is what we did at the Human Rights Commission. When we took the case of Kwalani, we lost in the Supreme Court. And we said, no, we're not going to accept this thing. Now we produced Kwalani and Masood. Those are the leading judgments in this country as far as constitutional issues are concerned. So in the same manner, that mindset must be taken to the public protector, that we are the first entry in terms of interpreting all the laws which fall under us, whether it's BRCA, whether it's PAMA, whether it's Executive Members Act, anything, because we are the ones who must make a finding. And so, as I was saying, in a strange way, the mistakes which public protector has made before have helped I think there is no other country in this world which has as rich jurisprudence on public protector than us, due to the mistakes, but now we're benefiting. So we need to be mindful of that. And my colleagues were saying that we should also ask for LPC to allow public protector to have the same status as Human Rights Commission, where his lawyer can also, be recognized and be able to take matters themselves to defend our matters in court instead of going to outside advocates when we know exactly what is going on. That's what the Human Rights Commission has been doing. So we can influence the gray areas of the law. And as you rightly put, I mean, some of us get very worried when you go to CCMA. You don't know the outcome. Now High Court, you are still not sure. Now Supreme Court, you are still not sure. Then Constitutional Court, yes, maybe. So the law is uncertain, but it's about how we interpret it and how we develop it. And I think we in public protector need to be mindful that apart from the work we're doing, we also have to contribute to jurisprudence as far as our mandate is concerned.
Okay, so and if I make the statement that the Human Rights Commission is primarily tasked to build a culture of human rights and to defend and protect everybody's human rights, whilst the public protector, as a consequence of the famous Concord finding, make remedial action which stands until set aside, how does that influence your answer? How does the duty of the public protector to apply the law as it stands differ from when the Human Rights Commission is building a culture of human rights?
Well, let me say, before I get to this question, the Human Rights Commission builds a culture of human rights. Public protector builds a culture of accountability and respect and a good administration. That's what we need to build in this country going forward. But coming to your point, it's what I was saying, that we need to be very careful as public protector how we write our reports, knowing that they are the first entry into the legal system if they get taken on review. So if you look at those reports, certainly they could be better. They must be written better, because I don't think people there understand that they actually contributed to jurisprudence. It's not just making a finding. So we must write those things properly. We must do proper research, have a research unit in the public protector to ensure that we are doing the right thing. So we need to put a little bit more effort in the understanding interpretation of our acts, and not wait for the courts to tell us that we're out of order and then we pay costs.
Okay, so my last question. I was donated.
No, sorry, it started at 10:24, now it's 10:32. He has I've allocated 3 more minutes from Honorable Brandenburg.
Thank you. So my last question or line of questioning turns on the, let's say the balancing of the differences between the executive authority and the accounting authority. So you left the Human Rights Commission because the then chair, Mr. Mushwana, felt that you overreached into the authority of the executive authority. I have a sense that that was underlying to your latest departure at the Human Rights Commission as well. If you become the public protector, how will you prevent from, while you're the executive authority, trying to be the accounting authority as well?
As they say, you learn from painful experiences. They make you wiser. A wise man learns from the mistakes of fools. So I've been in this battle of corporate governance, who's who, is a problem not unique to the Human Rights Commission. It's a problem which applies right through political parties, government. And having been there, and that's why one of the reasons why I went to law school to do an LLM in corporate law, just to understand, because, there's better sense of corporate governance. That's what you learn. There has to be a clear division between the board and management. Management should know its role, the board should know its role. Now, I can say one thing with all the courage. I have never interfered with powers that belong to me, that don't belong to me. I'll tell my commissioners, I'm here to implement those powers. It's a perception, because I'm very vocal and I express myself very strong. If I disagree with it, I'll disagree with it, but I'm not undermining. I've never been charged with insubordination anyway, because I respect it because of its importance. The moment you mess up with that, you mess up your organization. So I'm very, very particular about that. We're dealing with a case now in SABC where a board member was alleged to have interfered. I'm in the governance committee. We're dealing with that matter. We're very clear. We will not tolerate the undermining of corporate governance. It's a killer virus to any institution.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Vessels, I've allocated you 3 more minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me start with a complaint by a staff member or by staff members that was lodged against you whilst you were the CEO at the Human Rights Commission, and that followed assault by members of the Black Land First movement on yourself, and the complaint had to do with those staff members alleging that you brought the South African Human Rights Commission in disrepute. And although you were cleared of any wrongdoing, my question is, you spoke earlier that happy staff members is very important. You're clear that it's important that the leadership of the staff and the Office of the Public Protector is a very important role and aspect. Would you not say that the complaint of that nature by staff members attested to some kind of problem that staff members had with you, that there was trust deficit between you as accounting officer and staff?
The answer is a big no. However, let me explain. In any institution, there'll always be bad apples. That we know. And you have to accept that. There will be bad apples. And we deal with them accordingly. They will make noise, whatever they want. Now, going to the case of BLF, Honorable Horn, we're actually discussing with BLF about the case we were having against them for hate speech. There was a complaint, and I was called by Boang Jones to come and help him there. Now, clearly these guys had their own agendas. They came with cameras and whatever. They began insulting us, saying that we were serial lapdogs and whatever. Because I knew already what they were up to. And I told my chairperson that, you know what, we must try by all means never to find ourselves embroiled with BLF, because we know the agendas. But anyway, they began insulting us, said, okay, fine, meeting is over. We called security, please take these guys out. Then when some members came, that's when they began swearing at us. They swore at insulting me in my mother's private parts. I put my hands behind my back like this, never did anything. I was assaulted by a woman on my shoulder. I was insulted. We did nothing. They took cameras, they took pictures, and then they took my spectacles. And then they went into a lift. And then I said, Boang, please help. I cannot be seen doing anything. And then Boang said, bring the CEO spectacles. They threw the spectacles on the floor, then we picked them up. Then I was charged for that, for bringing the organization into dispute. So they went to cameras and stuff like that. So that was untrue. However, when I was the CEO for the first time in 2005, I encouraged staff members to form a union. When I came back in 2017, if you recall, some members written to this parliament saying that they're unhappy with the commissioner. So when I got there, I found the staff members are basically taking over the organization. Now you can't have that as a CEO. So I said, guys, we must do things properly. So it's those staff members who were unhappy with the change. They did all sorts of things. In 5 years, I was taken to CCMA 6 times, never lost a single case. There were anonymous complaints, Public Protector of corruption, which never saw the light. So we understood it's the nature of work, and you must deal with those issues and isolate them. But I can assure you, now, as you receive any complaint from extra members, they have an opportunity to say, don't appoint this guy, he's a bad guy. I would love to see that. So I was led by the commission. I have led the commission with integrity. And I know my staff members love me. Now, I'll give you an example. Since I left in May, the commission, 17 staff members have resigned from the commission. How do you explain that?
Okay, let me stop you there. You are very proud of your track record at the commission.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would have, in your tenure, done differently?
Yes. I would have sensitized my principals about the importance of corporate governance. I do understand, because the Human Rights Commission Act does not really make very clear delineation. So, for example, in terms of the Act, the CEO appoints staff members. Commissioners think they must appoint staff members. So we can't deal with them. So, okay, fine. For senior managers, we will interview and recommend you appoint. You recommend for appointment. But in law, we are the ones who sign, just to try and balance. So I think if you appoint, even for public protector, people who understand the importance of corporate governance and the divide between management and the board, allowing, of course, at the end of the day, the board is the one who makes decisions. So as staff members, you carry out decisions of the board. But if the board then tries to start interfering in management, that's where things go wrong. And it's very simple. You find some people are now talking to one staff member or union there, and then all hell breaks loose. So it's very important. Look at the complaints about Gender Commission, the fights in public protector between Mushwan and his previous deputy chairperson, and the current fights now. It's all about people not respecting the rules of corporate governance. Stay in your lane. You are the boss. You instruct, people account to you. So why then do you want to go and do what other people are doing? What are you paying them for? So it becomes fruitless and wasteful expenditure under PFMA, if truth should be told.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fine. Thank you. Let's come to something that has bearing also and that you would have experienced at the Commission as well. But with the Public Protector, it is a cause of concern as well, where state organs do not implement remedial action. How will you deal with that?
No, thanks. I've seen that, in the reports of the
With me, how do you make corporate to account, and what informs that posture? Probably then I will ask other questions, if you may, through you, Chair.
It has been a difficult one, But if you read section 17 and 21 of the Prevention and Combating of Corruption, that private sector is also involved in corruption with the public. So even though the public protector does not have a direct mandate on private bodies, but those private bodies which enter into business and become corrupt, we can go after them because we are mandated to look over section 1721. That's one. Two, the Act says we must deal with organs of state which do not do their work. So the state is here to protect all of us. So if the state does not pass laws which hold the corporate sector accountable and run after guys who pollute our rivers, then we'll go after the state. You know, as they say, sometimes you must hit the dog, that his master will come. And that's what we need to do. We hit government departments which are supposed to regulate and control the private sector. It's our mandate. The role of government is to protect everybody, including private sector, is to pass laws. The Companies Act is a government act dealing with companies. So there's already a regulative mechanism. So what has been the problem is that due to the weakness of the states and other things, we are not able to use our powers fully to hold those bodies to account. Thirdly, we've got a friend in the Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission does its work properly. It's got a mandate which extends to the private sector.
Okay.
So we can say, comrades, please go after those guys.
Thank you. Before I become a dog, on a lighter note, but probably I like the way you explain this and the rationale that informs your statement. I would just ask this question that who cut the cut in terms of the PP and all that? I know that in terms of the Constitution, it talks about the appointment and also the removal. It's very silent on that. Who cut the cut? And what's your view and approach on that?
Thank you. First of all, I must apologize to SPCA by using a very bad example, but the story was really that I'm not supporting cruelty to animals, so I apologize profusely for that. Who guards the guns? The public protector is accountable to Parliament. We must report, you can remove us, you can give us monies or you can cut monies, number one. That's the first level of accountability. But for me, the most important level of accountability is the people of this country, the taxpayers. So we in the public protector must all the time appreciate that we are accountable to the people of this country. We have been trusted with this power to protect them using the powers we have. And we should not be arrogant. That's where humility comes in, humility. That if we are humble enough to appreciate that we're actually here to serve the public and we're accountable to them. When I was at the commission, I would say, guys, we go anywhere, we must ask people, what do you think of us? Now, see, no, guys, remember, corporate law, these are our shareholders. You cannot run a company and disrespect your shareholders. You will crash. So in the same manner, we need to get this clear in the heads of every member of the public protector. We are accountable to the people of this country, although we go through that janji there, but ultimately, it's those people who are accountable to.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Advocate. Just picking up from a question that has been asked by my sister here, Honorable Tlhape, around socio-economic standing of SA, of South Africa, and also a high level of expectation from the PP's office. I don't want to have to say it an individual. Can you make a specific example with your 10-point plan that you promise that you do have it in your back pocket? What a strategic vision that you have that you are going to employ to ensure that you transform the institution to have a very appreciative turnaround time, and also I'll couple with that one, how you do employ the technology, noting that we are two countries in Rwanda, those ones who are affluent in terms of capabilities and network and connectivity, and also using the IT. And you did indicate that you've got a very good rapport with your stakeholders The only stakeholder that you didn't acknowledge are the people that are disadvantaged, the rural and the poor. Hence my question, because those are the ones that also tend to be marginalized in terms of what is expected to be provided to them. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Technology is the future. In the Commission, 3 years ago, we actually held a conference on 4IR and its implication for human rights. But having said so, the SDGs are very clear as well, that no one should be left behind. So we should never forget, we're proposing at some point in time that we must make internet a human right so that at least nobody gets left behind. The state must provide free internet. Then we'll address that issue. But so up until that happens, we do need to be mindful that, we serve a country which is very diverse, rural areas. I grew up in Lesotho for some time, so I know what happens. Even when you go to KZN, sometimes there's no cell phone connection. So you ask yourself what happens. So we do need to bear that in mind. And as I was saying, that, we need to have a mindset that all South Africans, including AfriForum, are shareholders of this company. And we must treat them with respect, and we must take care of them because we need their support. We are using their taxpayers' money in any case to do this work. We get paid high salaries to do this work. So we must not leave anyone behind. And as I was saying earlier on, one of the things that we need to be clear as the public protector is to embrace all those principles, National Development Action Plan, such as SDGs, to make sure that we take care of the voiceless. When I say voiceless, I also meant those in far-flung areas. I mean, one of the things we're looking at now at OCJ is that, how many South Africans have access to a court? How far is a court, a magistrate court, to most people? So what do we say about justice? So those are some of the things we need to address. So any structural changes or strategies has to put that as one of our top areas so that we get South Africans. Because without the support of ordinary South Africans, there is no PP, whether we like it or not. We'll just become a white elephant or maybe black elephant, white, gray, or yellow elephant, to be politically correct. So that is very important. But we cannot also ignore technology because that makes us efficient. We need to make sure we have a shorter turnaround times. I had people complain that, the larger complaint at IP, and then 4 years they haven't had anything. We can't have that. South Africans must believe that when they come to the public protector, they will get service. We must change our system. So even if we don't have enough money, we must partner with everybody, from media, government, NGOs, and whatever. And as I was saying, for me, I really want to push the issue of supporting whistleblowers. There are many whistleblowers in our country at all levels, under traditional leaders, under councillors. And if those people realize that their mandate is to ensure a better future for our country, and by voicing out, they'll be helping us, then those are my fan club, if I may say, who I'll need to make sure that we become the public protector I said we can become. Okay. And then maybe I'll come here and say, right, we are indeed the best public protector.
Thank you very much. I guess we are done.
Is there my 8 minutes over?
Yes, your time is up.
That's not fair. Thank you very much. I need
Honourable
to have,
Manaliso.
somebody to give me 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson, and welcome, Advocate Tipanyane. I'm very pleased in terms of how you've been responding on issues, and as a person who's actually identifying himself as a public servant. So I heard that Honorable Lesoma asked you about the issue of stakeholders relations, and I don't think you have touched on in terms of what she has asked on the issue of innovations that you will bring in to ensure that there's strong stakeholders relations. So can you just give us more in terms of what is it that will do better than the previous public protectors?
Well, one is to, in 2008, when we appeared before the Kara Asthma, the Commission had 65% public approval rating because of what we're doing. And the lessons learned from there can be replicated. What is crucial for the next public protector is to get a buy-in for all the people of our country, including the marginalized people, women, people with disabilities. They must see the public protector as their public protector. So we need to change our strategies, how we communicate, and really make them feel. Because remember, South Africans are very funny people. If I complain once, I don't hear from me, I don't complain again, then I just walk away. So we need to get these people back to say, here we are here to serve. So we'll have all sorts of interventions, communications, going out there, public outreach, jumping on the back of other government departments, going there to say, here we are served. One other thing which I'll do now that you're pushing it.
Sure.
Every year, Pulp Protector should go out to the people and say, here we are. What we have done. What do you say? So there must be that engagement. And actually what I'm saying is not you. If you look at the CRL Commission Act, it says at the beginning of their term, there must be a national consultative conference. At the end of the 5-year term, they must go back and say, this is what we've done. That's accountability. So we can't be chasing accountability elsewhere, and we are not accountable. So we must be accountable to our clients, or our shareholders, the very same people. Have we done a good job or not? Maybe even have the public to score us and say, A, B, C. I see they score ministers, not parliament. Score us and say, how are we fed? And we must fix that. But as I was saying, for me, the fundamental issue is that we, with our humility, we have to believe that we are here to serve the people, number one. 2, we must be trustworthy to the people. 3, we must be disciplined in carrying out our mandate. 4, we must act with courage. 5, we must be smart. They are our shareholders, we need them. You can't run a company and diss your shareholders. Your share value will plummet to 0. So just because we don't have share value, and we don't know whether it is plummet, maybe it is plummet, we don't know. So we need to find ways of ensuring that our share value is up here among Chapter 9 institutions, not just here, but actually globally. I think we can be the best Pulp Protector in the world if we do the right things.
All right.
And have a very high share value.
Okay. Advocate, when you responded on the issue of why are you fit for this particular post, you spoke that Parliament at times appoint incompetent people. So do you have any story to share with the country in terms of one of the institutions that you think that parliamentarians have appointed incompetent person? Just one.
Well, they say actions speak louder than words, so you can tell. Whom you appointed and what is the outcome. Then it means, hey, something went wrong somewhere. But, this one, at least I know it was public. In 2016, when I was not there, the staff of the Human Rights Commissioners, I'm told, wrote to the Portfolio Committee, and they say, we don't want this commissioner and this commissioner back. We are sick and tired of them. So that's an example. But, one does not have to go that far. You can tell or assess the quality of the appointments made by Parliament by the outputs of those people. Unless maybe halfway they got hijacked elsewhere. But if there's no hijacking, it means you made a bad appointment. And accept it and remove them.
Okay. Chair, as you spoke, you...
Oh, sorry, one more last thing. Sorry, I forgot to say this. You see, one thing that concerns me is that when we come to the Portfolio Committee, normally it's the staff members who get grilled more than the principals. Now, if I was a Pulp Protector, I would love to come here and be questioned by the Portfolio Committee, what have I done as a Pulp Protector? Not the clean audits and other things. Where's my leadership? So we must have a new assessment sheet. What are the values? The 5 points. Pulp Protector. Where is humanity, intelligence, trustworthiness, discipline, and courage? If you don't, then it means, Chief, half time, yellow card, please go home. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for taking a minute.
I want to give you an opportunity, Advocate, to tell the country one story that you think when you are an executive in any of the public space, that story will still carry till to date in terms of saying, this is what I've brought as one of my brainchild, and this is what it is because of me. What is that story that till today you feel that you can tell everybody to know that if you appoint me, then you are going to get this?
In less than 2 minutes.
There are many, but I'll highlight one. So when John Kwalane writes an article equating gay marriages to marrying a goat, the matter came to the commission, and because of the mood at that time, people were not sure what to do, and I was upstairs. Next thing I hear that there are people outside who have marched to the commission because we're delayed. So I said, guys, what is going on here? Why can't you make a decision? They were still divided. So I said, okay, fine. If I go down there, I want one commitment, that regardless of our confusion in the commission, we're going to take this matter to court, win or lose. We took it to court. We were insulted by many people. Fundamental Christians were bringing wrong values. I remember I was asked, hey, Chief, your father and grandfather were ministers of religion. What is going on here? You know, these things are, but I said, listen, I work for the Constitution, and we have to do this thing. So we went to court. Then we won in the High Court. Then Mr. Twalani becomes a South Africa's ambassador to Uganda. Then he said, damn, now, how do you sort this thing out? He applied for rescission, went to the Supreme Court. Then I'd left then. We lost in the Supreme Court. When I came back, I said, no, we're taking this matter to the Constitutional Court. That judgment will live forever of the Constitutional Court because it clarified the whole notion of equality, which is a core value of our Constitution, as well as accountability, as well as responsive governance, as well as transparency. So that will stay forever in the history of our jurisprudence.
Okay.
And it was me alone.
Yes, the time is up, 10:53 to 11:01.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Then let me stop here.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Honorable Janji.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Tsipanyan. You can take the water in front of you. Just before we start, if you need it.
I think I'll need it.
Thank you.
From experience.
Okay. Maybe the first issue to raise with you, let's just go to the Constitution. The Constitution lists 4 principles governing the Chapter 9 institutions. Can you quickly share those with us?
Section 181?
Section 181, 2 to
And
5.
Section 182?
181,
All
sub
those.
2 to 5.
Let's hope my memory doesn't.
If you've forgotten them, we'll skip them,
Okay.
so that we don't waste time.
First one, these are independent institutions. They must do their work without fear, favor, and prejudice. Then, the organs of state must assist these bodies to ensure that they are effective, efficient, and also protect their dignity. 3, there shall be no interference by anybody in the functions of these bodies. 5, they are accountable to Parliament. I hope my memory is...
Thank you. To the Constitution and the law, not Parliament.
Sorry, the Constitution.
You've mixed it.
Sorry,
But let's
Parliament.
proceed.
Parliament,
Let's
yeah,
proceed.
yeah.
Next, I don't have enough time.
Okay.
So we're going to do this, the two of us. Still in the Constitution, Section 193, which is what brought you here. It's about appointment of the public protector and other commissioners. It lists, it defines a criteria of a fit and proper person. Can you tell us what you understand as a fit and proper person?
Well, Bani Pichani used to say that,
I'll leave Bani Pijani. It's me and you now.
Well, it just means you must be a person. Actually, I'll quick answer. The 5 principles of leadership I've mentioned. In a nutshell, that's what it means. You must be a person with commitment, integrity, with knowledge and skills to be able to lead this institution. I'm just giving it a very broad.
Okay, based on that, is Tsidiso Tipanyane a fit and proper candidate in front of us here today?
I think so. With all humility,
Why?
I can.
You're frowning when I'm asking why.
No,
Why?
I'm not saying. I'm not frowning. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to see.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Well, I have never been found to harm the people of this country or the state. I've never have never acted irresponsibly in how I manage the responsibilities given to me. And my track record with NGOs, I'm highly accepted. I sit in a number of NGOs. I'm highly respected.
Let's pause there.
Yeah.
Thank you. My next point. And this is about the evolution of the Chapter 9 institution. You have, from
96.
From the onset, spoken about the Kader Asmal work and the report, which was done in 2007. Now, that report focused on how to fix these institutions, all these Chapter 9 institutions. So in 2023, we had one example where the focus was not on the institution, it was on the person occupying that institution. What went wrong?
Well, one, apart from bad appointments, I think Parliament could have done better by ensuring these things don't go out of hand. Yeah, I mean, we account every year. So if we were checking every year, we could actually have picked up this and not wait 5 years later. So what it means that we need to tighten our accountability systems over the principles of Chapter 9 institutions. For the last 25 years, we have seen all sorts of going-ins. Chapter 9, Gender Commission, Public Protector, Human Rights Commission.
Thank you. Let's pause there. I said I'm just controlling the time. You control the content. My next point, there's something called looking back and planning forward. And in the context of the public sector, we have what we call an annual report that helps us to look back, Chair, and an annual performance plan that helps us to look forward. Before you came here today, the institution that you're applying to be the head of, the Public Protector South Africa, and I want yes or no answers. Did you read the annual report of 2021-2022 of this institution?
A little bit, but I spent more time on the APP because I thought,
Did you read the APP?
A lot.
Okay. The APP, what is the budget of that office as it is going forward? Having read it. Can't be scratching your head. You said you read it.
It's around 300 million.
Because you remember you are here, you are praying to be the head of that.
Yeah,
and therefore you need to know what is it that you want to head.
It's around 300 billion rands. Also, I mean, I was attending a meeting of Treasury 2 weeks ago where they were showing us that there might be budget cuts. So I saw the budget there. So it's around there, 300 plus.
And the annual report that you said you read, what was the expenditure for 2021-2022? Having read that? Let's leave that.
Okay.
If you remember it, you'll come with it later.
Sorry,
because I'm managing my time.
Numbers, sure.
The chair is on me.
But they've been spending quite well. Actually, sorry, they actually exceeded. That's why they are getting an unqualified audit this year because of what happened last year. They overspent due to yourselves and other people.
Thank you. Let's pause there. But within that, you introduced, without being asked, that you have a 10-point plan.
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't know, you didn't unpack it. Yeah. I don't know what point, I don't even know a single point of that 10. Yeah. But let me ask you to give me one. As part of your plan, if you are successful in this interview, is there in that 10-point plan any plan about risk management and risk mitigation?
Yes, because
there is in your 10-point plan.
Risk cuts across everything we do.
Okay, wait. In your 10-point plan, you have risk management.
My 10-point plan is actually based on.
Okay, just give me two issues that you have identified as a risk in that office that if you are successful, you would put in place.
Yeah. One, as I've mentioned earlier on, we need to reduce the amount of money we are spending on litigation. It actually has cost us an audit.
How are you going to do that?
As I was saying earlier, we need to make sure, I mean, as a public protector, when we issue this judgment, the reports, we must make sure they can stand scrutiny and survive. That's why the commission, we're very clear. We hardly ever lost cases in court because we're very meticulous. We don't want to be sued and then be hit with cost.
Okay, what's the second one?
The second one was linked again to the audit, where apparently the previous public protector spent money somewhere, living somewhere. So it means our
Okay.
supply chain people
Thank
need to
you.
make sure that they don't succumb.
Let's pause
to undue
there.
influence.
Let's pause there. Let's go to the next point, which really embodies and really defines this institution. Police are known for arrest, NPA for prosecution. What is the PP known for? What comes out first?
So bring the last point and please give us the brief answer to it.
With that, so that I can just conclude it, Chair. And so the point here is the SCA made a court order about a public protector having an open and inquiring mind into investigations. So I want you to comment on that, whether, as part of your plan, how would you go about doing that?
That was actually the Million Guardian case, which was actually set the basis. As
Correct.
How we conduct, yeah.
Correct.
But let me
I'm glad
answer
you
the
remember
question.
that.
The Zondo Commission, despite all the bad things, we should never forget that Zondo Commission came through Public Protector, despite everything else. We should not forget that. And therefore we owe them something.
Okay?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
You're saved by the gong.
As a public.
Right. That's, I think we've now come to the end of this session. Let me thank you very much for the time that you have given us as the ad hoc committee. Thank you very much, and we wish you well as you fly back home.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thanks to honorable members. And apologies to SPAC again. Thank you.
All right. All right.
I won't sleep at
then
home
take
above
the
the
next candidate. You can walk him out as you walk the other candidate. Thank you so much.
We have a dog, MP.